Ambassador Moed, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
What can you tell us about the latest situation on the ground this morning?
We have grave news coming from Israel on this lovely Thanksgiving morning. Unfortunately, we hear that the number of casualties is still increasing far and far beyond the 300 official number that we have. It's much more than that. There is still fighting going on in some of the communities along the border with Gaza. Still infiltration of terrorists that are shooting, keeping hostages, and as we all know, also kidnap tens of Israelis into the Gaza Strip. Mm-hmm. At the same time, on the northern border, there have been some provocations by Hezbollah, and we also made clear to our northern neighbors that Israel will not tolerate any kind of interference from that side. Mm-hmm. So all in all, it's quite concerning. And when the stories are unfolding of what has transpired in those 24 hours, it's really horrendous. I mean, just imagine that on such a beautiful, peaceful morning, Shabbat, people are on the way to synagogue. Just imagine that you're in Montreal or in Vancouver, and all of a sudden a barrage of rockets are exploding all around you. And terrorists come in with guns and kidnap kids and elderly and shoot at random. It's just unbelievable. 1,000 terrorists that infiltrated into Israel, perpetrated this attack.
You're talking about, just so people understand, you're talking about Hamas. Hamas are the ones who are behind the attack. I do want to ask you about the response. Obviously, we've seen Prime Minister Netanyahu say that this is a war, that it could be a long war. What should we be concerned about in the coming days in terms of the retaliation from Israel as it defends itself?
What we should be concerned about is about the terrorist organization called Hamas, as you rightly pointed out, that has direct links to Iran, that is armed and directed by Iran, that also has used the Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip as pawns in its aim to annihilate Israel. Mm-hmm. And so this is really our point of concern. We want to eliminate and erase this threat of terrorism against the Israeli population territory.
What did you make, Ambassador, of sort of the world's response, Canada, the United States, and others, and the way this attack was denounced? How important is that for Israel?
That's very important. We are very encouraged by the strong support that we get from Canada's leadership, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Foreign Minister Joly, and so many other politicians from wall to wall, all around the country, provincial, federal level, all are expressing very clear and solid support for Israel, solidarity with the people of Israel, and also is recognizing Israel's right to defend itself at this horrendous time. This is a war. And this is one of the ugliest wars I think any country can experience. Mm-hmm. It is certainly something that involves the civilian population in a way that has not been imagined in the past, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. There are comparisons obviously being made to the Yom Kippur war, which was 50 years ago. Does it compare, and maybe explain to people how significant this is in Israel for people to be experiencing this over the past 36 hours?
There was indeed some mention of the Yom Kippur comparison. This is a terrorist organization, and a terrorist organization of this magnitude is waging a war against the country. This is beyond what we've ever experienced in the past. If we are talking about 1,000 terrorists infiltrating Israel under the cover of, I believe, up to 5,000 rockets that have been shot at Israel within 24 hours, that's a whole new reality.
What do you think has to happen? There are obviously questions about Israeli intelligence here, how this was a surprise attack and was not prevented, and no one seemed to realize it was about to happen. Will there be some sort of inquiry into the intelligence piece of this, or that it was either missed or ignored? What do you know about that part?
I'm sure that there will be questions to be answered when this all ends. But at the moment, Prime Minister, together with the heads of the opposition, are coming together and contemplating how to jointly address this threat against Israeli population and against this terrorist organization. How do we deal with this terrorist organization in a way that really removes that threat from Israel? That is what we are focusing on right now, and all the rest will come afterwards.
How concerned are you that as you fight Hamas, that Palestinian civilians are caught in the midst of this war?
That's the tragedy. That really is the tragedy, because in the last few months, this government has done so much to alleviate conditions for the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, including increasing the number of them working in Israel, trading with Israel, producing goods that the resources for these goods were shipped through Israel. A new project of energy from the Gulf to the Gaza Strip to alleviate a permanent problem that exists there. All of that is now stopped. And that's a tragedy, because Israel, the people of Gaza are not enemies of Israel. Terrorists are. And they are the ones that we are fighting against.
Okay. Ambassador Moed, thank you for making the time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.